the Reserve Bank of India's recent directives related to storage of payment system data as a data diktat. Command the payment system providers that it was a very important RBI decision that all the fintech corporations or banks that are using that are into the processing of financial data of any kind of transactions basically in India, they will have to keep their if the transaction is of only India, right, and then they will have to keep the record of that data only in India. If the transaction is of transboundary nature, then they can keep one record in India and the other in some other country. So it's very simple question. The people who have read the current affairs of that time, they would have easily answered it, right? They shall ensure that entire data relating to payment systems operated by them are stored in system only in India. That is absolutely correct, because only that payment transaction that was of transboundary nature can be stored in an other country, and in that case also a copy of that data has to be necessarily provided in India. That means statement 1 is absolutely correct. They shall ensure that the systems are owned and operated by public sector enterprise. Actually, that was not the case. The systems could be owned and operated by the banks themselves or by the third party intermediaries as well. It was not a compulsion that the systems could be operated and owned only by the PSUs. So option 2 is not correct. Option 1 is correct. Let's let option 3. They shall submit the consolidated system audit report to the Comptroller and Auditor General of India by the end of the calendar year. They had to submit an audit report, but CAG role was not there. There was no role of CAG. They'll have to submit an audited report of how much of transactions took place, and are they really keeping the data? Okay. So option 3 is not correct because they have put in a important term CAG here. That is why only option 1 and 2 are correct and option B is the right answer. Sorry, not option B. There was no requirement of the payment system operator being owned by a public sector enterprise. We have discussed it. So option A only, 1 only, A is correct. Which of the following is most likely measure the government or RBI takes to stop the slide of Indian rupee? Now, slide of Indian rupee means, what is the meaning of slide of Indian rupees? We often see news that Indian rupee is sliding, the Indian rupee is weakening, the Indian rupee is appreciating, the Indian rupee is strengthening. Whenever we talk the value of Indian rupee strengthening or weakening, we talk in relative terms with respect to the dollar, because dollar is the currency of international exchange. Now, let's look at what is the slide of the currency. Whenever we basically understand the law of supply, okay, supply and demand, right? If we look at the fact that when supply of a commodity is increased, okay, so what happens is the price or the value decreases, right? If the supply increases, the value decreases. Okay. Similarly, if demand increases, the price or the value also increases, right? It's a very basic supply demand curve. Now, if we talk about currency exchange rates, how do currency exchange rates vary? So currency exchange rates, okay, vary with respect to supply and demand of that currency. Okay. Supply and demand. How? For example, dollar is the international currency of exchange. Now, two countries want to perform some trade between themselves, like India and Britain, for example. India and Britain want to perform some trade amongst themselves. They will be doing this trade in dollar, right? So, for example, if India is exporting its good, so India will be getting money, right, in form of dollars. So British will have to purchase dollars because they have what? Pound. They have pounds, right? So pound cannot be used for international trade, right? It can be used, but not with India. So they will be running for what? Dollars. Okay. So they will purchase dollars and they will pay us in dollars, right? That means the demand for dollar in international trade market is very high. That is what makes dollar a very strong currency. That is what makes dollar a very strong currency, right? Now, the demand for Indian rupee is not as high. The demand for Indian rupee is not as high because Indian rupee is not the standard method of exchange in international relations. So similarly, the exchange rate of a specific currency depends upon the supply or the demand of that specific currency in international trade. If simply what happens is, this is dollar, this is rupee. We can clearly see that the supply of rupee is higher. We can clearly see that supply of rupee is higher. And we can also see that supply of dollar is low. Which will be more stronger? Of course, dollar. Because we know that two facts. First of all, the demand for dollar is very high in the international exchange rate market. Secondly, the supply of dollar is also low as compared to the rupee. So if that means our rupee is weak as compared to dollar. If we want to strengthen our rupee, we have two options. Either we flood the international market with dollars, ठीक है? Or we suck the rupee out of the international market. We have only two options. Either we increase the supply of dollars or we reduce the supply of rupee. In both the cases, the rupee will get strengthened. Now let's look at the question. Curbing, the question says that which of the following steps the government is going to take to curb the slide of the rupee. To control the slide of the rupee, the weakening of the rupee. The weakening of the rupee, our aim will be to control the weakening of the rupee. What will our aim be? We will try to reduce the supply of rupee or increase the demand of rupee, or we will try to increase the supply of dollar. We cannot reduce the supply of demand of dollar, right? Curbing imports of non-essential goods as promoting exports. What will we do if we are doing imports, curbing import? When we are curbing import, what we are doing? If we have to import something from some other country, we are having rupee. If we have to import something, what will the importer do? Importer will go to forex market and they will sell their rupee, purchase dollar. They will sell their rupee, purchase dollar. When they are selling rupee, what they are doing is they are increasing the supply of rupee in the international trade market, right? Forex market. If the supply is further increased, then the rupee further weakens, right? That means if we curb our imports, if we reduce our imports, then the supply of rupee into the international trade market gets reduced. That means the rupee will strengthen, and that is the correct answer. If we curb our imports, then rupee can strengthen. The correct answer is option A.